I want to talk to you about touch your audience. Once you feel them and you know where they are, your job as a presenter is to touch that audience. And what I mean by that is you're going to have to build a bridge to those individuals. Once you have scanned the room, you've prepared yourself, you figured out where they are and what's happening with them, you realize what time of day it is and who they are and where they are, then you have to build a bridge to them, and that is your job. Your job is to use all of your skill and all of your talent and all of your ability to use vocabulary, to use illustrations, to use all sorts of things so that you can connect with that individual. It does no good to know where you are if I'm not going to touch you. The whole point of being in front of you is that at some point in the midst of our presentation, I'm going to say something, I'm going to present something, I'm going to use an illustration that is going to meet you where you are. And if you're talking about walking into a corporate office, you're going to have the ability to be able to touch those individuals, because that's the buy-in. Until they feel you. See, first you were feeling them, but now they have to feel you. They have to feel your passion about it. They have to feel your conviction about it. And you're going to have to, this is why I said to you that's important that you broaden yourself. The information that you read, the things that you learn, all those things are going to be necessary so that you're not limited to just using certain kinds of illustrations and certain kinds of examples when you get ready to say something. If you're going to walk into a corporate setting, you need to be comfortable with talking to people who are of different nationalities and different races, which means you may have to do some research and learn some things about their culture. So when we put you in a situation where there's a mixed crowd, you're going to have to develop the ability to be able to touch each gender, both genders. You're going to have to develop the ability to not just talk to church folks, but to corporate individuals. And it's going to be important to you. Sometimes some of us excel when it comes to corporate situations, but we don't excel when it comes to maybe spiritual things. Isn't it frustrating that you can go to your vice president and make presentations that wow an audience and cause you to get raises, but then when it's time to go into maybe your Sunday school class, you totally flub it? Isn't that frustrating? Isn't it frustrating? Don't you walk away saying, now I know I can do better than this. I know better than this. I know more information. I've studied this for 8, 9, 10 years. I do this every day for my job. I get paid to make presentations, and yet I can't make a presentation maybe in front of my leading ladies class or to my first lady or to the leader of my auxiliary. It's frustrating. But one of the things that will help you with that is being able to walk into any setting and be able to touch them. Broadening yourself and bringing illustrations in that anybody and everybody can relate to. Look at somebody and say, touch me. Even in a room like this, it's important that if you're going to move us, that you be able to touch me. Have you ever been in a situation where the presenter, everything they said was true, everything they said was right, everything they said was right on the money, but it didn't touch you? The presenter's job is to make sure he brings out everything but the kitchen sink. To make sure that he touches you. It's building a bridge to your audience. It's building a rapport. It's developing a relationship with them, and you only have a few minutes to do it. You don't have the luxury of having, say, 10, 15 years to build a relationship with an audience. You have about 5 minutes. You have about 5, maybe 10 minutes for them to decide whether you know what you're talking about, whether they want to hear you, whether they're somebody that's worth listening to. You got about 5 minutes. So that means, especially if you walk into a situation where you haven't had the luxury of building, this is not your family reunion. This may be your corporate office. This may be a speaking engagement that you've been called into. But your job is to build a bridge to those individuals and touch them. Look at my son, touch me. That means you have to find some things that they can relate to. You have to use things that they can respond to. That means that you can't use illustrations or use examples that are way over their head. That means that you may have to tailor your vocabulary to fit the audience that you're speaking to. And yes, you have a vast and very a large vocabulary, and you are a walking Webster's dictionary, and you are adept at using words that nobody knows what you said. Sounded good, very smart, but they'll have to go back and get a dictionary later and figure out what did you say. By the same token, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're talking too low to your audience, where you're using illustrations that my 5-year-old will relate to, When you're walking in saying things because it's very condescending, it's very disrespectful, it says that you haven't read your audience. It says that you think that I don't know anything. The vocabulary, so all those things have to fit, and you have to be smart. Your mind has to be doing mental gymnastics the whole time you're talking. The whole time you're talking, it's like walking into a room and you're pulling things off the shelf. I'll pull this, I'll pull this, I'll pull this. And all you're doing, even while I'm talking to you, I'm pulling things off the shelf in my mind. I'm pulling things that I can use, pulling things I can relate to, pulling things that I can use to articulate what I'm saying to you.